Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today I want to have a look at the Italian M26 Ariete in a tank review, because I think that it's about time that I have a closer look at this one. It is practically a copy-pasta tank from the American M26. However, it is placed in a different environment, and it actually might have a bit more and a bit less value at the same time for the Italians. Now, a lot of the informations that I give to you, not about this tank in particular, but about the environment, are coming from the first iteration of the dev server, so take it with a little bit of salt. However, there is still some value to those information in the greater context. So I think I already made a tank review on the P40 Leoncello. Link to it is either in the video description down below or in the comment section. And this is a fantastic tank, and because the Italian tanks will have their own beta as usual with the introduction of a new tank nation, you need to purchase your way into this, or you go through a mission marathon. And I think this is the cheapest alternative in this way, to go directly into the Italian beta and immediately begin your research. However, the M26 Ariete is better at earning money, so civilians and RP, and it is also a rank 4 tank. But it is overshadowed in this respect by, as it stands, the third option, which is the M60A1 as a rank 5 premium. And I think that's the best value for your money, because then you can eventually also research rank 6 tanks with it without penalty. However, a lot of people just fancy the M26, they just fancy the gameplay at rank 3 and 4 more than at higher tiers, and I think in this respect the M26 also offers here a bit more alternatives to the playstyle, because again, the other Italian tanks in this battle rating bracket are mostly without any armor, and we see a lot of recoilless rifles, heat FS, and just wheeled tanks driving around on the battlefields. Again, information's from the dev server. I don't know what we will see as later additions, but this is currently as far as I can tell you. So to complement your lineup, this is an option, but again, information's from the dev server. The majority of tanks that will form your lineup at rank 4 are battle rating 6.7, so if you want to complement your lineup, you need to artificially slightly up tier this tank, and I can spoil you that much, it's not the world's greatest tank in an up tier. So let's begin with the armor, and then talk about the X-ray, and then so on. As we can see, the front plate is not the world's heaviest angled one, and it's cast homogeneous armor around 100mm thick. It will not really protect you from anything, but a further weak spot here is the machine gun port, which is not a small target, and also here this area around it can cause some ricochets, as well as this enforced traverse edge, 162.5mm thick, but less angled, so it's debatable, but this causes some non-pens and ricochets. Furthermore, it protects you from some of the shot traps, more on this in a moment. Then the lower glacis is less angled on the outside, so if you have not the world's greatest gun, aim for here and watch the firework. Then let's look at the side armor, and there is one noticeable problem, that here you can actually penetrate only the 76.2mm if the tank angles. You just shoot at the right front and it catches the shell and it enters. So angling despite the 76.2mm is only an option versus SPAs or some up tier tanks, or if you're the top tier dog. And it's just in the fighting compartment, because the engine compartment is only 50.8mm. So if you angle and the enemy just hits here, your engine can be disabled and set on fire. Then we have here some structural steel that might protect you from hash, which begins to appear at this battle rating. Then we also, the back of the tank is 50.8mm, not the world's greatest armor, and the engine deck and the entire deck plating is 22.2mm. That's not the strongest, so rockets and 20mm with armor piercing will go through. However, it is especially a problem from the front if you look at here, because it's bent downwards to save weight, I guess, but then a lot of shells that come your direction hit there might overmatch and easily enter the tank, doing a lot of damage. That brings us now to the turret, and it's all around 76.2 millimeters, which is not too bad, again SPA safe mostly. But then we come to the front part. There is a bit of angling going on, but mostly it's flat. The turret itself is a big target, and it's 101.6 millimeters of cast homogeneous armor again. Then we also have a gun mantle frame, and that causes an overlay partially here with the gun mantle itself, which is 114.3 millimeters thick. Now, while it is here flat and seems to be easily penetratable, it is overall bent down and up, so it's like half a circle. And the lower part can cause some shot traps, but the upper part causes a lot of ricochets and non-pens, especially in conjunction with the 101.6 millimeters cast homogeneous armor behind it. So the tank can be really troll, but don't rely on the armor. Especially in a hull down position at longer ranges, it can be fun to play, but to get there is a different question. The cupola is rather small and flat, but it's still there, again talking about hull down. So the armor is not the tank's overall strength, but it's not particularly weak either. The X-ray reveals that we have 5 crew members, so that's a plus in terms of survivability. A big minus here is not just the big ammo rack here in the bottom and here on the sides, but also in particular this ready rack with 10 rounds. And you cannot empty it because it is a ready rack. So you get improved rate of fire for having here this ready rack that you can now no longer empty. Again, 70 rounds, mostly you are fine with 20 to 30 rounds of ammunition, despite the ammunition diversity we'll talk about later, but that is a big weakness. However, the power pack is in the back together with the transmission, so no further protection in the front for catching here shrapnels or some shells that pen the front plate. So the tank, once you aim for the lower plate with a solid shot, with an APHE shot, it causes a lot of firework. Talking about firework, how's the tank's mobility and overall firepower? Let's talk about that right now. Let's begin with the mobility, and the M26 Ariete is classified as a medium tank. However, it doesn't have medium tank mobility overall. That has to do with the combination of the not so great horsepower output of the engine. 500 horsepower in itself is not bad, but the 41.6 tons is not the lightest either, so the combination is 12.0 horsepower per ton, and that is in this comparison the lowest. Even the Panther F has feelable, noticeably more horsepower to ton ratio, and so that makes the M26 feel really sluggish and awkwardly slow in its acceleration. On hard terrain though, if you give it enough time, it actually can speed up to 48 kilometers per hour and bypass here the Centurion Mark III, and also under very good conditions the SDA-2. But the SDA-2 in the majority of battle scenarios is always quicker, because you have to turn, you have to accelerate, you need to brake, take a shot and then accelerate again, and having a significant amount of horsepower to ton ratio, namely 21.6% more, is noticeably feelable. So the top speed is not too bad, but mostly you're cruising at like half that speed, and sometimes even lucky if you do so. Especially uphill, you feel it, and that makes working a ridgeline really awkward. While you have the good reverse speed of 14 kilometers per hour, which makes for a good maneuverability in conjunction with the neutral steering, overall you just don't have the acceleration. Then also a little bit the gearbox feels a bit unresponsive, so you really have this sluggish heavy tank feeling, and as we saw, the armor doesn't hold up to it, unlike for the T-44 for example. Let's talk about the firepower then, and there we have the standard 90mm, and so you are actually in good company. So some tanks, mostly heavy tanks, have sometimes a higher caliber, but for a medium tank a 90mm is adequate. We have a huge amount of shells, as I mentioned. 20 to 30 is more than enough. The reload is not particularly bad, but 7.5 seconds is for a medium tank quite long. And so also the turret rotation speed is good with 24 degrees per second for an ace crew, certainly better than the Centurion Mark III and the Panther F, but also the responsiveness of the turret traverse sometimes feels very odd and sluggish indeed. However, the rest of the gun handling is good to average. 10 degrees of gun depression, 20 degrees of gun elevation, and 4 degrees of elevation speed makes the tank your standard tank. But again, for ridgeline working, this is really good. Since the tank is very similar to the American M26 in the tech tree, I will use here the same terminology as for upgraded shell and stock shell. And we begin with the T-33 solid shot, and that has 189 millimeters of penetration with a muzzle velocity of 822 meters per second. That is nothing outstanding, and it is only a solid shot, so no bursting charge, but you profit from the improved spalling damage or fragmentation damage. So it is not a bad option if you need just a little bit more penetration, or if you shoot somebody through the engine into the crew compartment. You go through, you set the engine on fire, and you also kill crew with the shrapnel effect. The second stock shell is the M71 HE shell, and that is not very useful because it doesn't have the splash damage, it doesn't have the penetration from the bursting charge, which is under a kilogram, and where it is decently to aim with because it doesn't suffer from low muzzle velocity. Again, you have a 50 caliber machine gun, which is better at dealing with very lightly armored vehicles. Now let's talk about the potential bread and butter of this tank, and that is the M82 APCBC aka APHE shot. While it lacks a little bit of penetration in comparison with only 170 millimeters, and the muzzle velocity is also not the greatest with 853 meters per second, the bursting charge of 137.2 grams of TNT equivalent certainly one-shots everything if you hit the crew compartment. So for side shots, this is the non-plus ultra shell, and so if you're in a good position, if the enemy shows you the broadside and you can repeatedly farm them, as you might have seen in some of the clips, then this tank certainly feels great. But that is now the same shell that makes the Super Hellcat work at 6.3, same battle rating, with massively better mobility, as you saw in the comparison. If you really need to engage enemies that have too thick armor from the front and they have flat armor, such as a Ferdinand in mixed battles or an Hori production, again in mixed battles only where you're facing the Japanese, you can actually try out the M304 shot, which is an APCR. As a tier 2 upgrade, it actually increases your penetration power from the perspective of the APCBC, the M82 shot, by nearly 100 millimeters to 264, and also the muzzle velocity goes up to 1021 meters per second. It is very bad dealing with sloped armor, and the post penetration damage is also not as good as with the solid shot. It is a shell that you can try out, but for side shots certainly use the M82 shot, the APHE shot, and this just as if you really need to shoot at long ranges and need to only hit the target, or if you again shoot through the engine. The final Excel spreadsheet here is now about the ammunition comparison, and as we can see, we have practically the same gun as the Super Hellcat, just hampered by the fact that we have that low mobility and the slow acceleration. The STA-2 has practically the same gun with the same ammunition, but actually has also a heat shell with 305 millimeters of penetration, and so the combination of Heat FS and APHE on the STA-2 makes it really cool. The Centurion Mark III has a stabilizer, higher rate of fire, and also APDS instead of APCR, and that not just only has better penetration, but also deals better with sloped armor, and also has 1400 meters per second muzzle velocity. The Panther F actually has more protection in this respect, and also has a slightly higher rate of fire, as well as slightly better penetration with its APHE. The T-44 here lags here a little bit behind, however it has better mobility and also it has better protection. Same goes for the MX M4. So in this respect you can see the M26 is not really left behind in any particular fashion except the mobility, but overall I think mobility is a very important factor in War Thunder to go to the flanking shots in the first place. Now let's talk about the gameplay, and I want to show you this scene as well. This is a rather unusual scene, and as you can see, mostly I have here my APCBC rounds. but very often they are tricky as well. I think you are a very good support tank, but your team needs to actually allow you to make the play. What that means is your team need to preoccupy the enemy tanks and they just are distracted. You give them the side shots and have a lot of fun farming them. But that doesn't really happen too often, and many other things can do this as well, whereas you are very often only restricted to do so, especially in particular in an up tier. So this tank is not bad in any particular way, don't get me wrong. But with the compression that we really see at those battle ratings, at this battle rating bracket, you have issues, and nobody can deny this. This tank is lacking something in addition. So if it would have better mobility, I'd say okay. If it would have particularly good armor, I'd say okay. If it would have very good gun handling in terms of stabilizer or an autoloader, I'd say okay. Give it better APCR or APDS and or heat FS, then I'd say okay, really something that you can work with. But there are so many limitations and stuff that you don't have, that other tanks that you face on a regular basis just simply have. And this is what really restricts in many ways the gameplay. You cannot really rely on your armor, you cannot in any circumstances rely on your gun, although, you know, under certain circumstances of course it does well. And we kill here the M18 with the 50 cal, and we farm here the enemy team that just has simply bypassed us, and we have easy shots. But with which tank can you not kill those tanks in this specific situation? I think you can do this with the majority of tanks, but eventually there is nothing that you can do against a tank that just flanks you wide, and I was limited here to this position. There we can see the great effect of one shell in the ready rack. The very best gameplay that I had was this one, and while I was actually enjoying here a slight up tier to 6.7, I think it is very interesting to see how this goes. So you can see we have the tactical situation that A is in one corner of the map. I suspect that the majority of people go there. Since we are facing the Americans and the British, in particular the Americans feature at this battle rating a lot of their light tanks and fast tanks, such as the Super Hellcat, the Hellcat in particular in some sort of up tier, then also the M26 Scorpion, the M50 Ontos, the T114 premium tank. They are all 6.3 or 6.7, and that in conjunction with some heavy tanks such as the T29, the T34, hell, even the Super Pershing. They are tanks that you cannot really deal with in one way or the other. Either they out-mobility you or they just outgun, out-armor you. And trust me, trying to get kills with the APCR on a regular basis is not a nice experience. Nevertheless, you can see I'm flanking here roughly through the middle, and I'm staying here on the low ground to not be seen, to not make it that easy. Some tanks are actually going with me, and you can see on the minimap one of the Tiger 2s is actually nearly keeping up with me. So I suspect the great difference that I make here is because of the expert qualification, that I'm fully upgraded, and that I let the tank run mostly in a straight line to not lose speed unnecessarily, and still he is right behind me, and that tells you a lot about a medium tank. Yeah, that is not the greatest thing. Now I have to be critical in that way, as you need to play lots and lots of battles with it, because it is a premium tank. You want to earn silver lines, you want to earn research points to actually research it, and that is just where the tank gets really exhausting. So we are now going up the hill again, and I'm carefully observing here the ridgeline. One could argue, thanks to the map design, that this almost will result in spawn camping, but this battle will be really, really nice for certain scenes where I show what the tank can do under the very best of circumstances, when you have some team support and when you then support your support, so teamwork, distraction, side shots, and then the occasional special kill, let's name it that. Again, here we are, and I'm observing tanks that can get killed right now will respawn and will very likely go in this way. And also, if there is a tank, I have to be very careful, I have to observe the tanks, and there is already some 50 caliber action going on. Where is the turret? Where is the machine gun? There it is. Oh, that looks like a T-29, and a bit of angling was enough to let the shell not pass through there. So now it's the critical situation. Has he seen me? If yes, I'm in a world of trouble. On the other hand, he might just angle his turret and another tank of my team just can get then a shot into the side. There is a Walker Bulldog completely oblivious, and we actually shot trap him here and knock out his crew with one shot. So first kill, that's good, but it is a Japanese M41 Walker Bulldog, so there are more surprises that will come. Now I'm going aggressively in. He seems not to have responded to my shot, maybe not really recognizing from where the shot came from. I realized that there is the second tank, but I have to focus here the T-29, and we get him. And there is the premium T-28, the cousin without the side armor, and that makes it easy to blow him up. Good shot right there. So that was already amazing. I look behind me, I see a smoke cloud, difficult word, and there is now, what is that, T-92, yeah, there I have to turn to lower my gun, and we one-shot it and potentially save our target too. So because he might have been damaged, so the gun breach has been taken out. There is an M26 Scorpion. We gun him down here with the 50 cal critical hit and target destroyed. We focus here then on the British tank. APHE in the side, this is what gets them really triggered, at least their Oryx. And that was just a beautiful, beautiful ×5 killing streak. Just right there, king of the hill, and then we get shot from the side. Oh boy, that's not good. So I have to immediately angle. I have no idea where I did get shot from, but the damage indicates that it is solid shot damage or APDS. And hello there. Seems like he has been distracted. I take careful aim. Can we one-shot him? Yes, 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 yes. Esquire would say. Probably not because, you know, British tanks and such. Nevertheless, what should we do now? So you can see now, like 3/4 of the map are empty. There is no tank in the east. Everything is in the west according to the minimap. And so I thought to myself, well, better have a short look there, which I did. So from now on, we actually have to wait. We have to be patient. Oh, there is an SPA. Let's see what we can do about that. We lost our 50 cal sadly, but we get a good hit in. Sadly, the ammo doesn't detonate. This is where heat would be amazing for hull breaking. And yeah, he bails out and gives me the kill that way. I saw a shot coming in. That looks like another British tank. We have 7 kills already. I worked really hard now on the hill. I was in a really lucky position. There we can see the bounce. Even if it would have been a solid shot and not APDS, that would have been amazing. And there you can see the hull down capabilities. You know, fighting just with the turret looking out. A lot of people then miss aim. They just miss you. And that allows you to bounce the occasional shot. However, again, remember the ready rack in the turret. That led to many, many unnecessary deaths where the enemy didn't even score a normally critical hit. There is now the M26 T99. I think this is the most expensive overall tank in the game, and he's just blazing away. I wait here till he gets registered. There we go, and we finish him off. So that was our 8th kill. That could have been designated as spawn camping, but it was a fair distance away. We have now cornered the enemy. We have actually captured the objective on a map where it's actually not that easy, and now planes are coming in. At this point, I really think to myself, oh my god, I'd love to have my 50 caliber right now. You can actually lose one crew member and still have access to the 50 cal, because the first crew member that gets exchanged is not the commander but the radio operator. So in theory I could now go back into the cap and replenish here one crew member, but I figured it out, if it's really worth it. At the end of the day I usually then get bombed, because you know I'm the dangerous tank in the cap, whereas then the rest of my team is observing their spawn. So planes are some of the few leftovers of the enemy team. There is one Centurion Mark III that just killed one, but this could have happened from inside of their spawn. So I figured it out, okay, let's retreat. And you can see there is actually not too much cover here on the hill, or on top of the hill. I was not really sure if that British tank that I killed was actually the one that was really shooting at me. So some bombing action going on. The XP-55 killed now our Ostwind, you know, the mighty German SBA, got defeated by an Arsender, sorry, totally unintentional. And we are just looking around, kind of lost. At this point it is kind of a waste of time to look around, but trust me, there is a final happy ending. So the Bu-409K shot down the XP-55, that's good, that's good. And I for myself just look into the sky, observe here. I'm not quite sure, should I go here for the cap zone, should I go for a different position? My team is controlling the spawn, so we will win this game, it's just a question of time. The question is there nobody going wild? And there you can see my spider senses were tingling, and the Tiger 2 actually killed here an M41 Walker Bulldog that was flanking us hard. So I guess it might also have been the Walker Bulldog that was previously shooting me into the side of the turret. Would fit to the damage as well. And also the Carnarvon was not behaving the way that I expected enemy tank to behave. So then the BTD-1 actually defeated our plane in a head-on, Bu-409K. And again, I'd love to have the 50 cal, and the 7.62mm machine gun is just not the sharpest tool in the box, let's put it that way. The BTD bombed successfully at T-44, but that's not match deciding, is it? So I want to kill him to actually get rid of him, to end the match maybe a touch quicker. It's always this time of the match where you get nothing, you know. And I think it would be a massive shame to just bail out of the tank and just you know, waste the tank. It's not so much for the KD ratio, but just out of principle, because I would give a kill to a person that actually just only damaged me, and that's just something that I'm not really happy about. Let's just see if we can connect the shell. No, sadly not. Oh, I so can feel it. Is it that shot? Ah. It's really difficult to estimate here the range and elevation on a maneuvering plane. I'd wish to be an SPA right now. So the BTD seems to fly low right now, and that just might give us the opportunity for a good lead. Where is he? Let's follow the traces, and there he is on low altitude, flying slow. Yes, yes, what a beautiful kill. And that was actually the last kill that I got in this match. So 8 tank kills with a very, very beautiful ×5 streak, which makes me happy. One of the planes here is not so amused about my performance, it seems, but we actually won here the game. And also to finish off the battle with a plane kill, yes, and we got the precious Survivor Award. Let's have a quick look at the post-battle results, and let's see what we got for our efforts. Since we didn't cap, the plane doesn't give us that much civil lines, surprisingly enough, but the 8 kills give us lots of money, and we got nearly 75,000 civil lines, and the Survivor Award actually is a 10th of this, and nearly 10,000 modification research points. If I would research in our tank, it would be 30% more or 10% more, something along the lines like this. That was a fantastic battle. I had fun playing it. The tank overall has its issues, but when it works really well. And so it can be a lower tier alternative to the M60A1. That's it for me today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this battle and you enjoyed this review. Let me know in the comment section if you found this helpful in your decision to buy this tank or not. And as usual, give this video a like if it did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other in the skies, on the waves, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.